to this side of the gate, and tonight it's going to be such an exciting walk through this side of the gate because I am in awesome company. Tonight I have Connie and Barry Strohm with me. Now, just to tell you a little bit about the books, Barry Strohm has been using his gift of spirit communication by means of a channeling board to bring information concerning life after death, reincarnation in humans and animals, alien presence on Earth, and many other related subjects. All of his books, including Aliens Among Us, Exploring Past and Present, and Spirits Speak of Conspiracies and Mysteries, and Life on the Other Side. Also, there's so many books, and we'll talk about as many as we can tonight. They are wonderful. They are riveting. They're going to make your eyes pop. So buckle yourself in and welcome Connie and Barry Strohm to this side of the gate. Hello.
Hello, and thank you for inviting us.
Oh. Thanks for putting up with us. Of course, we're just starting the show, so you might have a cutoff switch, but we'll see where we're headed.
Never, never, never. Now, I'm going to tell a couple of people, I'm going to tell our listeners that might not know, a couple of people out there may not know, I have known Connie and Barry for quite a while. Now, I started listening, my first introduction to Mr. Strohm was when he was first talking about their haunted antique shop that they have there not far from Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. And I started listening, and then I started looking into it, and then I got some books, and I read, and everything else. And before you know it, I have talked with Barry and Connie multiple times. We are almost talk every day or message back and forth via Facebook on Words of God Then and Now. And it's just been a wonderful ride. It's been just several years. You've done readings for us. It's just amazing. It's just amazing how things have blossomed. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about how you got into this, Barry? Because you didn't start out doing what you're doing.
No, to say the least.
Not even close.
No, I've got a business management degree and a civil engineering license, and I worked in construction all my life. Didn't even believe in ghosts until probably about 12, 15 years ago. When we bought the store here, we thought it's an old shoe warehouse, dates back to 1877. And we bought it, fixed it up, converted it to an antique gallery. And then we found out that we also purchased this condominium for ghosts. And it is like one of the most haunted buildings you will ever put a foot into. We watch them every night on security cameras here when we shut down.
It's just been amazing, the stories that have come out of there. I think that was one of the first things that drew me to listening, because you were telling a story. I don't know if you can remember it off the top of your head, but about one of your friends came through that was a sensitive, I believe, and a young girl was telling you and led you through to something that had an attachment. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah, sure. No, that was actually the first time I ever participated in a professional investigation. And they teamed Connie and I up with a medium, and I'd never really been around anybody with psychic abilities before. And she says that she is hearing the words of a little girl, and the little girl's telling her that she wants to show her her pink doll. Well, I had a K2 meter and had no idea what the damn thing was. but I had a K2 meter, and I said, well, if you're here, come over and make this thing light. And all of a sudden the K2 in my hand starts blinking back and forth. So I said to her, can you make it blink once for yes, twice for no? And she said, yes, blinks once. So anyway, I said, how would you like to show me your pink doll? Because, yeah, right, there's a pink doll she's playing with in here. So it blinks once. Folks said, okay. So it's pitch dark. We start across the store, come to the first aisle. I say, should we turn here? Blinks twice, no. Come to the second aisle, blinks twice, no. Come to the third aisle, and it blinks once. So we turn down the aisle, go maybe 10, 15 feet, and lose contact with it. So I'm thinking, well, that was really strange, but I'm still not seeing any pink doll. So about a half an hour later, we decided to take a break, and I'm turning the lights on so that people don't kill themselves in the store. I'm coming down that aisle from the opposite direction, And when I reached the point where we lost contact with her, I look up and I notice in the case where we lost contact, there's a pink doll. So she had actually led us about 150 foot with 3 commands and took us right to the doll. And when she got close, she probably just went through the wall, and that's why we lost contact. But that was about all the verification I needed that, yeah, we really did have spirits.
Absolutely.
And from there, it was like riding a merry-go-round. I mean, there was no end to the events that would take place.
It's amazing because I remember, like I said, listening to the earlier stories when you first started talking about this and just, little things. Of course, they have an antique shop, people. So, of course, things are going to be attached to these things. There's been things attached to oil paintings. There's been things that just really boggled your mind in the beginning for both of you because you're having it around you almost every day, very active place. And then you really start paying attention to it. And I remember there was a story about a little turtle that kept moving, a ceramic turtle that kept moving on the top of a refrigerator or something like that. And you got it on camera and you're like, nothing is moving this stuff, tags moving, jewelry, things, all this different stuff happening to the point where you then started getting in a few people, like you said, that were either paranormal investigators or they were sensitives, just coming in and shopping at the shop and going, this painting over here. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. The spirit actually sold the painting for us.
How cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time a sensitive would go past that booth, he would tell them that he did not like the music we played. And people would come up front and tell us that. And we'd say, yeah, okay. So several months later, a lady came up to the front desk and she said, something's talking to me, but I need help to get it down. Well, lots of times people say when they see something they really like, they'll say, oh, it's talking to me.
Right.
I have to have it. So Barry went back with her and she leads him right back to Joseph, to his portrait. Barry says, tell me how it's talking to you. And she said, well, he told me he doesn't like your music and he wants to go home with me. And he said, so this is really cool because we had the spirit sell a $1,200 piece of art for us.
Amazing.
We thought that was really good. So he evidently decided that she didn't care for music, or if she did, it's a different type than what we have here.
Wow.
So,
you want to sell some stuff, you should start playing some really harsh music in there. Maybe get a few more pieces to sell. But that's just incredible. And my whole reason for bringing up this bit here is to take the listeners from, you guys weren't always into this. It has been a roller coaster ride for, I'm going to say, 8 years now? Or has it been about 10?
Well, I published the first book in, 2011, and it took me 3. So we've been doing it probably now for about 10 years.
About 10. That's what I figured. Yeah. And it's,
I made fools of people like me.
I know. And that's just it. See, I know that knowing you guys, so just for the listeners, I'm setting them up to kind of go, okay, they were as reluctant as a lot of people are going to, to believe some of the things that are coming through the spirit board. Now, how did you get started with the spirit board? And just to clarify, the spirit board is not a Ouija board, but again, listeners, let's get off of that platform by now, okay? If you've been in the paranormal, it has nothing to do with the board. It's a tool. It could be a tarot card. It could be a deviation tool, whatever. It's the intent and it's the energy around it. And Barry and Connie got some really good advice, and it's got a prayer of protection underneath. They know what they're doing. They don't allow evil in. It's different than just going to buy one down at the Toys R Us or writing it on your floor and just letting your door wide open. They know what they're doing here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into the channeling board?
Well, we were introduced to friends of ours out in Salt Lake City, and we knew them for years before we actually realized that they were involved with the paranormal. Connie started telling them about what I was doing back in Pennsylvania, and then they said to her, well, I guess it doesn't matter if we tell you that our family's been doing the same thing for 40 years. And the mother turned out to be, a very, very well-known psychic around the world. We never even realized it. But the technique that they used for those 40 years was a channeling board. And their design was round, letters and numbers were in a circle, had commands on it. And the most important thing was it had a glass top on it. And they would actually use a glass shot glass instead of the planchette. And they would put their fingers on this thing, and this glass would literally fly around spelling letters and the messages they got for them. So I had no idea what it was. And I guess it was about 8 years ago now. We were out visiting, and they invited me to come down in Salt Lake and attend a session. So they're sitting on this board, and I sit down minding my own business. And all of a sudden, the guide comes on, and he says, "Hello, Barry, we were waiting for you." And I thought, well, this is going to be really bizarre. and they proceed to tell me things that are taking place with my ghost back here in Pennsylvania. They're telling me about Jeffrey Silverman that we'd been talking to in the ghost box. They're telling me what was taking place on things I was seeing on the battlefield and explaining that to me. I'm going, holy mackerel, there is no way these people could ever know anything about these messages. But one of the very first messages they ever said when we decided to get involved with it was never ever invite evil. And we don't. I mean, that's a cardinal rule of it. And once we decided we were going to really be involved, we actually let the guides design the board. So they made modifications to the board, and those modifications are what we actually use every day when we do this. And we actually asked the guides to give us a prayer of protection. And I'll let Connie repeat the prayer for you, because it's a great prayer that we use.
Absolutely. Please do.
We start every session with this.
Please do.
It's God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and protect us from those things that would harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Protect us from our egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God. Amen.
And that's the actual words of the spirits. That's what they gave us to protect it. And every session, we do not touch that board without saying that first. And we actually have the written prayer fastened to the back of the board. And we're probably up around 700 hours of channeling now.
Yeah.
And we've had some attempts of some bad stuff trying to come through, but we've always been protected. We've always known it. We've always been able to stop it. And it's just, whatever you do in the paranormal, your protection depends on your belief in God. You know, one of my favorite sayings is an atheist has no business in the world of the paranormal, because they're really on their own out there.
They're unprotected, completely unprotected. And I say it all the time. You know, they say, well, you know, why? And so, well, basically, you're delving into the spirit world. You know, being spiritual has a lot to do with the spirit world. It's right there in the title. You know, if you don't have that protection around you, if you don't have your own filters, you know, you're just welcoming anything in. And I think that's the part that people don't understand so much. You know, there's like, oh, really, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? We can go on all night of what can possibly happen. You know, it might not happen to you. It may happen to somebody else in the room. You know, this is a lot of different energy going on. So that's the whole point of this. Barry and Connie are very careful. They've always been, I don't want to say methodical, but in a way, yes. You know, that you have a method to this, and you've very structured. You went into it, Barry, with just, you know, like you said, scratching your head, but you just had so many things happen. Connie, I don't know, was it as difficult for you in the beginning to get it, or did you fall right in, or were you kind of like follow? How was it for you? I don't ever hear anybody asking you that.
No, I really didn't have any problem with it at all, because I had the examples set for me. Now, actually, I had my first experience with the other side about 40 years ago.
Okay.
And never thought of it as a paranormal experience. I was driving home late one evening on a 4-lane road, and by myself, and I stopped on this. There was no stop sign, no traffic light, but I stopped to make a left-hand turn. And I saw in the distance some headlights coming, but I thought, oh, I've got time to make that. And just as I lifted my foot up off the brake, a voice right at the back of my head said, "Wait." And without even thinking, I put my foot back on the brake, and the next thing I know, this car came flying by. Well, I would have been a grease spot
Right.
at that point. And my first thought was, oh, my word, God just talked to me, all the millions of people in the world. And then I thought, oh, no, it probably wasn't God. It was probably my guardian angel. But a little later down the road, I got to thinking, and I thought, I bet that was Russ. That was Barry's dad, who I had a very warm relationship with. And he passed away when our oldest was 3 and our youngest was just 9 months. And he was a wonderful grandfather. He darn good father-in-law, too, by the way.
Nice.
And I figured, Russ probably just wanted to make sure that his granddaughters had their mother to finish raising them. Well, down the road, when we started using the channeling board, Russ came through pretty quickly. And Barry asked him if that was him that stopped me from pulling in front of that car. And he said yes.
Nice.
So I actually had an experience. Didn't think of it in those terms.
Right. But it was validated years down the line. And that's kind of the way a lot of this happens to people. Anybody that's interested in this usually had an experience either young in age. That's what happened to me, very young in age. And, we look for answers. And usually at the base of the core of all our questions is life after death. Do we go on? Does energy still continue? And that's what really gets us all into this. And then everything else just kind of follows around all of that. So that's really interesting. So you were a little bit less apprehensive. I'm sure you were very inquisitive, but you were less apprehensive to the things that were going on in the antique shop. Now, in the antique shop, it's not just spirits attached, such as the painting or the doll, but what you said, there was an old shoe factory, and there are still workers just happy to be there hanging out. Is there not?
Yeah. We have 8. We have actually channeled with 8 different workers that were here during the time that they produced shoes. So.
Isn't that amazing? And they're not stuck. They're just kind of, they liked it there, and that's just, they're just kind of chilling out and having a good time. They're just doing what they did before, but they're not so much stuck. You have a lot of, I remember you saying too that you had like, I don't know whether the word portal is correct or not, but there was a lot of mirrors.
That's
there.
a good word. That's
is it?
A good word.
Okay, portals going through, and people coming and going. They're not all just stuck there,
Oh, yeah. When we started channeling, we used to do it down in the room, and we had so much activity. We had to move away from the room because these spirits would come through, and they would give their name, and they would have nothing to do with what we were trying. So we had so much interference down there, we actually had to move out of the basement and come back up here in the back end of the building and do our channeling as far away from the portal as we could get. And we whenever we channel, we'll get 3 or 4 spirits will come in, give us their name, just because they can.
Right.
When we open the channel, they really want to take advantage of the opportunity they have, because it is very, very hard for spirits to get their messages through.
And that's something that I saw. I don't mean to cut you off, but that's something I saw a lot in the books. Now, right before I mentioned the book, I wanted to get this part out too, just so the listeners understand. Maybe that they have never heard you guys talk before on this, and I want them to get the whole feeling of it. They didn't just jump into this, people. It gradually grew with them. And if you know anything about this subject, a lot of times you don't get your full knowledge of what you're doing or what you're supposed to be doing till later in life when you can handle it. And, and you can control that energy. They also are extremely sensitive to energies, such as I've seen you guys channel to where someone will ask you a question like, what's going on in my house or something like that. And you go, you got to get somebody else because we're picking up a bad energy here, and we can't go there. You'll stop it, immediately, because you feel it before. I think you get it even before you start to try to channel it, because you guys have become so ultra sensitive now. Doing this for so long, you actually have that sixth sense is very honed at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah, when we started this, we could hardly get the glass to move. I mean, our guides were so patient with us. and they worked with us. And then we would learn how to, you've got to learn how to open yourself to this. And we worked at it. Probably took us 2 years before we really were getting meaningful sentences. And we were moving fast enough that it was really worthwhile. So we spent an awful lot of time. In the beginning, we would get on Skype with our friends out in Salt Lake City, and they'd have the board in Salt Lake, and we'd ask them questions from here in Pennsylvania, and they would actually answer them for us, and they would do the board work. But the more we worked at it, the faster and faster we got at it. And, we've reached a point now that when I'm doing this, I'm actually hearing the words in my head. So if anybody watches this on Facebook or on YouTube, they'll see that I'm just basically letting that class go to the first letter of the word to verify that what I'm hearing is correct. But in most instances now, I could probably just do most of the stuff in my head. But we video everything that we do. And accuracy is very, very important to us, because there are times that, we'll get some bad messages. So we always try to verify everything. Well, you'll see in the books that are coming out, it'll seem like I'm repeating myself, but I'll ask the same question to 2 different guides.
Right.
And make sure that we get the same answer from them before I put the stuff in the book. So we really have come a long way.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And again, like you said, in the books, you'll see it where you've asked, about a specific famous person or something, and you've had that person come through, and then you've had a guide come through, and you've asked them at a different time, and the information is matching up from all the different sources. Then what he does is he goes back, and I'm sure that Connie's in there too, looking and researching. You'll research to see if it matches up with things that have popped up in history. So this is extremely researched information on many levels here in this world and in the spirit world as well, where everything is coming through. And I have seen that as the development of how you guys do this. And I've watched it, like I said, as soon as we could start seeing it over the years, I've watched it. And it does move much faster. And I've noticed that you're getting... It's almost to the point now where if you're doing a call-in show and somebody asks a question, you almost know the answer before you start asking. You're just basically doing it for verification from the spirits because you guys are getting it, But that's not very unlike anybody who is a medium who sits and does, whether they're doing tarot cards or not using any cards at all or just having those questions. Because once you tune into the energy, you're tuned into the energy. So that being said, all of this stuff is extremely researched, and it's amazing. So when you started putting out the books, I can just imagine. I think the first one was the Gettysburg. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first book. I've always been a history nut.
Me too.
And I grew up fairly close to Gettysburg. And as a kid, all I ever wanted to do was go out to the battlefield. My parents would take me out. And actually, Connie, on my first date, I took her out to the battlefield. So, I've been drawn to this thing all my life.
It might sound silly, but it worked. 57 years later, I'm still here.
I would have loved that. I would have fell in love with him too. I would have been a battlefield, awesome, Gettysburg. I'd have been out of my mind. I love going to Gettysburg. I'm far from it. I'm about 3.5 hours from it, but in fact, I'm trying to go the next couple of months again. You're having a big bash out there, so I'm trying to get there for that. You can't get enough of it. And I think in a lot of ways we're drawn to certain places. And I know you guys find that true too, whether it's being, from reincarnation or some other kind of thing, or, if we were a soldier in other lifetimes. So yes, listeners, I'm talking about reincarnation, because at this time, if you're getting hung up on the word reincarnation, I'm going to go ahead and shut it off now, because you're not going to be able to handle the stuff that's coming up. So
that's pretty accurate.
So get out now, change the channel, do whatever, because you're not going to be able to handle what's coming. So the reincarnation, spirits coming in. Before we get started into the books, tell a little bit about the spirit guides, because within these talks, we're going to talk about master guides. We're going to talk about spirit guides. Spirit guide can be somebody who never lived before or a human being? Tell a little bit about that so we get a little bit of idea of the way they work.
Well, we all have spirit energies on the other side that try to guide us through life. You'll have certain energies will help you do different things. For instance, I'm a terrible writer. All through college and high school, I avoided every English course. Couldn't write. I mean, I just got terrible grades in my English. So I avoided it. So the last thing that anybody that ever knew me would think would be that I would write a book. But when we started getting this information, I was introduced to a guy named Sterling, and he was my writing guide for the first book. Mm-hmm. So Sterling helped me write this thing. The first book that I did was Haunting and History of the Battle of Gettysburg. And I'd be sitting there and trying to write, and I would say, okay, and I'd hit it, all of a sudden you hit a dead spot. And I'd say, come on, Sterling, help me out. I'd like to go to bed yet tonight. And all of a sudden the words would come, and I'd type the stuff out, and I'd go to bed. So they brought me writing guides to help overcome my lack of abilities. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I could have never written a book without spell check. I'm like the world's worst speller.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm right there with you.
So everything technology and guide-wise had to come together for this to start taking place. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I published my first book at the age of 69. Mm-hmm. And that was Haunting and History of the Battle of Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. And in the process of writing that book, I found out why I was so drawn over to the battlefield. As it turns out, I fought there. Mm-hmm. I was a Confederate captain, and I fought there the second and third day at base of Culp's Hill, if anybody's familiar with it. Mm-hmm. And I can take you to the spot. And last year, I took some people with me out, and I had a ghost box with me because I knew I can go out and talk to the soldiers that I fought with. I went out to the spot where I fought, turned the ghost box on, and I could say, do you guys recognize me? And over the ghost box, everybody heard the words, yes, sir, Captain.
Wow.
And I said, how you guys doing? And we then proceeded that I had a conversation with them out there. And they're actually upset that we're trying to sell the store and leaving them. And one of them actually yelled at me over the ghost box, and you could hear the word quitter come over the ghost box because we're trying to sell the store.
Right.
So, I explained to him, I said, look, it's not going to be too long to come over. I'll come as soon as I get back over, I'll come down and visit with you guys. And you're welcome to come visit us when we go home. Spirits are always welcome in our house. So, but anyway, I had the ability to go out and actually talk with the spirits that we fought with. And when I'm out there, I have a mental picture. I can see them still laying behind the stone wall with their rifles, and it's really wild. It is.
It's just amazing. And honestly, it's not the first story I've heard like this. I've heard of many people being drawn to a certain battlefield and going there and then feeling the pain of, where they were shot, hearing the name, and then going later and researching and finding out, yes, this person was shot there. He looked like this, whatever. And the soul's actually recognizing the soul that's coming.
Oh, yeah. And before I really understood it, we had a spirit here at the store named Jeffrey Silverman, and Jeffrey had actually fought with me, and I knew a little bit of the background. So one night I was out taking photographs by myself at night on the battlefield, and I hadn't realized everything that had taken place. But behind this stone wall, there's a wooded path. And it goes down to the creek where they took the wounded and everything, and I always had great success photographing down there. So one night I'm out, and I start to walk down this path, and in my head I hear, don't go. And I turned, and I went about 50 feet, and this big tree fell right on the trail where I would have been. So I would have been under this tree at night by myself, and it would not have had a good result. So anyway, a couple of weeks later, we're on the channeling board, and Jeffrey was there. And I'm thinking, I bet you that was Jeffrey that saved me out there. And I said, Jeff, was that you that told me that tree was going to fall? And on the channeling board, Jeffrey comes back and he spelled out, no, it was the fellows. it was the soldiers that recognized my soul that warned me that tree was going to fall.
Isn't that amazing?
So in that case, it was the souls that I fought with in the Civil War that were my guardian angels.
Isn't that amazing? In that case, yeah, it's just amazing. And that's just it. I've heard from many others that, you have spirit guides that come and go during your life when you need that spirit guide to help you through something, such as you writing your book. Then you guys have, when you sit at the channeling board, you have certain guides that come in quite often, and then you have some that are kind of new at it, and they'll say, hold on a second, I need to get some help because I'm not sure how to do this. And they're very honest about stuff. They also protect you, and they go and get the other spirits that need to come in and talk. And then you have spirits that are so excited about talking to somebody who's going to listen. Now I'm going to start getting into the spirit speak of mysteries and conspiracies, if you don't mind. I don't know. Okay. So one of them, they all get to me, but one of them that has been trying for centuries to get somebody to listen. Yes. Tell about that one. It's just, they're all amazing, but King Richard III, bless his heart, King Richard. I know he's listening.
Yes, well, King Richard was a very interesting story. A couple of years ago, they actually located his remains and found out where he was buried. They excavated this parking lot where he'd been killed and actually found his bones, did the research, and confirmed what. Well, about 2 weeks after they find his remains, one of the psychics we were working with starts to see him. Richard starts to appear. So he was saying that he had a message. He wanted to talk to us. So we got the channeling board out, and we asked for his appearance. And he has a guide come through, and we were aware that the guide is talking in Old English. We're hearing yays and nays.
Right.
And then I asked for Richard. And Richard comes through and he starts to talk to us. And I said, you have got to prove to me that we really do have the spirit of King Richard here. And he spells out the word farthingay on the channeling board. And Farthingay was the name of the castle that he was raised at as a child. Mm-hmm. So we really did know that we had him with us at that point. And he wanted to come through. And we asked him about, are those really your remains that he found? And he said, yes. And then he makes a statement. It took me almost 500 years to listen for someone to listen to what I was trying to tell them. So the person that was in charge of finding his remains, he was guided by King Richard. Richard, actually led him to the spot, and they find the bones. But anyway, Richard wants his story told because he's feeling very bad that he has been blamed for the death of his nephews. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. History, and Shakespeare with King Richard. Shakespeare was a good friend of the Tudors, which were the enemies of King Richard's family. So they made, in the plays and all the writings of the time, they made Richard seem like he was the cruelest, meanest, worst person known.
Right.
Well, as it turns out, Richard was very religious. When he spoke with us, he was very forthcoming. He told us who was responsible for the death of his nephews, gave us their names, gave us a whole bunch of information about his life, and gave me everything I needed to write a chapter about him in the book.
It's just amazing. So, and he comes through so sincere and so...
we had no doubts. And all he wanted was justice.
Right,
this
exactly.
was the thing he wanted.
To clear his name. Basically, in his words, what you have here in the book, if you don't mind, I'm just going to say it because it was just so profound to me. Pray you hear me good. I am not a traitor. I am no murderer. I curse my killers in the name of God. he had such plans for his people. He was struck down, in basically in the prime. Then they blamed the killing of his nephews on him, and these were men that betrayed him. That he said, "Men I broke bread with." Meaning that he trusted them. They were part of his group, his following, and they all turned their back on him. And we find out, I know you've noticed, but you find out throughout this book that happened to so many. So many in power, that had that power. It's not somebody from way on the outside that is doing the betrayal and the backstabbing and the killing and the plotting. It's those that are closest to them. And it's just, it just makes you shudder to think. And, it's like that old thing. If we do not learn from history, we're destined to repeat it. And it just seems like it keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. So my heart really went out to him. And I hope he knows that, people are starting to get that word out, not just through the book, but, through these, many podcasts and radio shows that you guys have been on. And we're saying, we hear you. We hear you. And I think it's awesome that he's finally got the word out.
There's a really cool ending to the story of King Richard. When I was at our home out in Utah, when I was finished writing the chapter, and I'm sitting in our living room, and I had my laptop, and I finished it, and I closed the laptop, and I look over, and there is the apparition of King Richard in green flowing robes, standing in the living room by the fireplace, and he looks at me, says, "Thank you," and then fades away.
Oh.
And that's how I ended the writing of his chapter.
Absolutely. Well, we hear you, King Richard. The body's been found in a park, under a parking lot, no less. And I can't imagine how much he worked on that person to keep looking for the body. But boy, he took him 500 years. But by golly, he's starting to get the word out. So good for him. Good for him.
Yep. It takes patience.
Hail to the king. There you go. That's just awesome. But that's just one. And it's so cool that you guys went from talking to it almost seems like so fast, but 8 years, 9 years, you think about doing all this and hours of channeling that you do together. And then you start realizing that you can talk to these people. What was your first thought on, hey, I wonder if I can channel this person? What started that? Did you have just somebody pop in, or did you actually ask for someone?
Well, as you know so much about us, but that our whole journey's been preordained.
Oh, absolutely.
And these things would happen. So in the very beginning, when we started channeling, we were working with a psychic. And we had these amazing spirits come through. I mean, we're talking to St. Andrew.
Yes.
In the beginning, we had Pope Sylvester, that was the Pope when Constantine selects the Gospels. Mm-hmm. We had, just some of these really high master type religious guides. Mm-hmm. And I always thought it was because she was such a devout Catholic. Mm-hmm. And it's out, that we were just kind of along for the ride. Mm-hmm. But then, when we stopped working with her years ago, we continued on our own to have these. And and the spirits that we've been channeling with have just been progressively getting higher and higher on the chain. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're now channeling with the highest of spirits. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's incredibly hard for anybody to believe, including Connie and myself.
Right.
But when you feel the energy of these spirits when they come through, it's utterly amazing.
It is, and I can attest to that because I've been there on the live channeling, and the mm-hmm. entire energy changes depending on who it is that we're talking to. The energy in the room. I asked my son to come in the room. I said, just walk into this energy for a minute. I didn't even tell him what I had because I was watching on my little phone. So just walk into this energy, and I mean, on some of these channeling, the tears just roll down my face uncontrollably. The whole energy changes. The cat woke up off the couch and came and just sat on my lap because the animals even know when they're in that kind of energy. It's absolutely phenomenal.
I'll tell you another really quick story that amazes. I mean, we channel our, excuse me, I'm choking. But we channel our animals consistently.
Oh, I love Bodie, and
Yeah, we tell the story of Bodie. We channeled
Our
him
two bosses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, our two cats are part of our animal soul family, and our gold cat, his name is Leo. He's a male. Well, the first time Connie and I ever channeled the Blessed Mother, we were doing it in our dining room over in the apartment, and we had a little box up on the counter. Leo would like to lay in, and while we're doing this, Leo is laying in the box. And I can just see these two little eyes and ears looking over the edge of the box, watching us. While we're channeling with the Blessed Mother. And when she leaves and goes, and we feel the energy's going, Leo stands up in the box. And the way he looked at me, I knew he had a message for us. So I said, "Okay, Leo, what do you have? What do you want to say?" And on the board, it spells out, "I cannot believe I just saw Mary."
I know. I love that story.
Think about that. I mean, just think about that.
I know.
The animal soul is that advanced.
Absolutely it is.
They recognize the Blessed Mother Mary.
Absolutely.
I mean, it blew me away when that message came in.
It blew me away, too. I read it several times. And what the listeners may not know, too, is when he says they're part of the soul group, can animals be part of your soul group? Sure. What's a soul group? Basically, a soul group is the group of souls that you go through lifetimes together with. And what does that mean? Well, when you're reincarnated, it's almost like, and I've talked about this on my show before, when we're all over there, on the other side, and we're all past, and we get back together again, and you kind of decide, okay, well, we're going to go back and we're going to learn this, and we're going to do that, because you want to advance your vibration of your soul or whatever. You come back in soul groups, and you keep almost repeating. But what that means is, like, one time I might be the brother and you might be the sister, or one time I might be the brother and you might be the mom, or it's just different. But animals do it too. And Bodhi was reincarnated and actually found you guys through channeling board and said, you will find me, or I will find you. I forget exactly how the words were.
No, what he said was, "I will return in 13 months as a black kitten, and I will find you."
There it is. Yep. And he did.
How he did it was almost beyond comprehension. We were working with a psychic named Donna, and we still work with her occasionally. She's a wonderful person, got great energies, very nice person. But anyway, we were channeling, and it was right around the time I was expecting this little black cat to show up at the door of the antique gallery, So Donna and I are on the channeling board, and I say, "Is Bodhi back yet?" And the message spells out, "Cats are playing." So I'm interpreting that Bodhi's back somehow or other. And Donna doesn't know anything about this story. So she said, "What's going on?" So I said, "Well, Bodhi is going to come back to us as a little black kitten." And she goes, "Oh my God, I've seen Bodhi." I said, "Where'd you see Bodhi?" She said, "My father is buried in a cemetery down in Baltimore. And I was down putting flowers on his grave, and I went over to the caretaker's building, and there were kittens there, and they asked me if I wanted a kitten. And I said, no. She's got several pets. She said, but I'd like to see them. And she walks over, and this little black kitten walks up on the porch, walks out, and stares at her. And then goes back under the porch. She said, I'm hearing that was Bodhi in my head. And I said, I'll bet it was Bodhi too. So we called down, and Connie and I are heading down to get our cat back that we lost 8 years ago. So we drive to Baltimore, and we've got carrier, wet cat food, the whole thing. We're ready to go. So we get there, and we walk up, and Connie's standing there, and this little black kitten walks up on the porch, walks into the middle of it, stares right into Connie's eyes, saying, hi, I'm back, and then goes back under the porch, and we cannot get that little guy to come out with wet cat food or anything else. Now, can you imagine a feral cat not coming to wet cat food?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. And at the same time, there's this adorable little orange kitten just staring at us and charming the heck out of us.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, boy, we're here to get Bodhi, but I wouldn't mind having that one also.
Yeah.
But anyway, after an hour, we gave up trying to collect them, and we left and drove back up to New Oxford. And as we're driving up in the truck, it came to both of us. Bodhi wants company because Bodhi knows that he's going to be spending a lot of time at that time we thought it was a him, by himself because we're at the store 7 days a week.
Right.
That he wants company, he wants a sibling. So the next morning we called the gals down at the cemetery and we said, we're coming back down tonight and we'll get the black one and the little orange one. So we had them within 15 minutes, packed in the car, and headed back home.
Yeah, as soon as they saw us, they came right out on the porch and picked them up, and we were out of there in 15 minutes.
Almost like they knew you had finally decided to take Leo as well.
Yes.
They knew.
It was all arranged.
They knew.
Yeah.
They knew.
So, continuing the story. So we come back up, and we have these two kittens. Well, we know the black one. And Bodhi had told us in Channing that he wanted the same name. So Bodhi was Bodhi. So we cannot come up with a name for the little gold cat. So Donna comes back. I said, Donna, come on back. We want to channel the little orange cat and see what name it wants. And Donna goes, oh, I know what name. What name? I've been hearing his name for 2 days. What do you mean you've been hearing his name for 2 days? We don't know what the name. She said, I'm hearing the name Ginger for 2 days. I went, oh, my God. Ginger was the name of my daughter's dog that died 10 years ago. Mm. Leo is Ginger reincarnated.
How about that?
It was a golden retriever, came back as a gold male cat.
How about that?
So the last part of the story, I got to thinking about the first time that we went to get our first Bodhi, and how he came to me immediately, but cats do not normally do that. And he snuggled up to me, just like he wanted to go home with me. And I thought, man, this is really amazing for a cat. I must be a real cat catcher. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I got to thinking, maybe before Bodhi was a Tonkinese, maybe Bodhi was our black Labrador retriever. So when we were on the board last week one night, I said, Bodhi, were you ever with us before you were the other Bodhi? And she said, yeah. And I said, who were you? And she spelled out Starlight. Starlight was my pony when I was a kid.
Connie.
And that was back, say, in 1956, I believe, that our home burned down. And so we had to find another home for him because we moved in with my aunt and uncle for a year while my parents built another house.
Isn't that amazing?
So he went from being a pony to a beautiful Tonkinese, to a beautiful black female.
Isn't that amazing? And they find us, they find our souls, and that's what Soul Group is all about. And I'll tell you, Connie and Barry did a reading for me. Now, this is before they knew me. This is going back years now. And I reached them, and I wanted to find out. We had just lost a cat, Simon, and my husband was very upset. And I had an amazing, it's almost too long to tell, but basically it just kept coming back to me was this little kitten that I had lost when I was like 5. You know, she took off from me and she ran off into the woods. So I turned to Barry, I said, why not? And you guys were nice enough to just talk to me. And I believe you were writing a book. It had something to do with spirit guides and animal guides. And I said, sure, let's do it. They told me things in that reading, listeners, that nobody knew. Nobody knew. Connie and Barry are for real. Their spirit guides are for real. And to be able to tell me about this kitten that I lost when I was 5, that is now a little spirit guide of mine, you know, that hangs around, it is just amazing. You know, so I've seen Barry and Connie from all different sides and levels, and I've watched them for years. So the things that they're going to tell you, they happened. These things are happening. So I believe, like you said, this was all predestined. and it gradually moved up. Well, it's gradually, it's very rapid for all the things that have happened. But they got you in there. They dipped your toes in, and then you just got deeper and deeper and deeper until now you're just washed in it. You're just awash in it. So when you wrote the book, with the conspiracies and mysteries, basically a lot of it was channeling famous people who had died that had a mystery or conspiracy wrapped around them. We're talking JFK. We're talking Patton. Like we said, King Richard III. You've talked to all different people, but you've also talked to spirit guides at different times. We said how you wrote the book, you would have both conversations in there because they were each validating each other. And one of the people you got was JFK. You got John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And he came through as just the gentleman that he was. Now, he was a scoundrel. He probably wasn't made the best husband out there. But man, he was caught up. He was a war hero. He was distinguished. He really handled himself very well in the war. And I think he was caught up in a family that was just awash in just power hungry. The dad was none too good. Again, just like King Richard, he was basically taken out by those around him. And I've got a little bit of an intuition too. I've always kind of knew that Johnson was involved. It's just something I knew. But what did you want to say about that one?
No, Kennedy. When we talked with Jack, we said, his father was really bad.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was talking to him, I said, do you see your father over there? And he said, no, my father has been sent to the lower level.
Right.
So there's a difference. There are forgivable sins.
Yes.
And there are unforgivable sins. Evil is not forgivable.
Right. He was pretty doggone evil. And I think that really, the whole thing with the Union and the vote and then turning their back on, of course, if anybody knows anything about the Union, the mafia is involved in that. And then, they gave him the vote and then they turned their back on him and then basically tried to, wipe out organized crime. So there was so many things, but basically it boils down to just what everybody thought was, John was going to pull everybody out of the Vietnam War. And there's a lot of money in war. And people didn't like it. And it turns out that, Johnson, there was a lot of stuff going on there. But, Johnson kind of set up an awful lot of that, Yeah,
well, Johnson had the connection with Giancana.
Yep.
But what the straw that broke the camel's back was when Kennedy told Johnson that he would not be vice president second term. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was Johnson then knew that if he ever wanted to be president, he had to act now. Mm-hmm. So that was why he pulled the trigger on the assassination.
Absolutely. And, all the different conspiracies that are out there, I forget exactly what the term is, but basically they throw out so much misinformation and then within that is the truth somewhere. But there's just so flooded with all of this, information that you're looking at it, but you can't really see it because there's so much of it. But basically that's what it boils down to. The Secret Service knew about it. You can see it in the tapes. You can see, where it almost looked like some knew and some didn't. Like one was actually trying to get on the back of the car, and then kind of looked at the other one when he was told to get off, like, what are you doing? You can tell that there was so many people involved in that. And there definitely was people in the grassy knoll. He told us that. Your spirit guides told us that. And something else when I was reading the book that popped out to me was the storm drain. Well, I've listened to about the storm drain on other stories, from people, and they went back to look at that and they covered that up.
Oh yeah.
As soon as it came out, boy, they went and covered it up. Like, yep, it's still the cover-ups are still going on. And the minute I saw his son's plane drop, and I said they did it again. They took out his son too.
He was going to reopen the investigation into his father's death.
Sure was.
So that's why he was killed.
Mm-hmm. And that's just the way they say. Power corrupts absolutely, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You know what I mean? It's just it's a power, it's money, and it's always going to be. And you touch on so many things in that book. It's a phenomenal book. I recommend everybody go out and read it. They're all good, but that one is one of my favorites because you really bullet point. You bring out a little bit of how you were introduced to aliens. Now, anybody that knows anything when you're thinking about this subject, come on, people. You know, you're really going to look up and think that we are the only intelligent life in all the universes. Are you kidding me? So let's just get that out. Aliens are here. They've been here for a long time. They're walking among us. And if you don't get that by now, I'm one of those people. Listen to me. I don't need disclosure. To me, it's just asking a government that I don't really trust anyway to confirm something I already know. Do you know what I mean as far as disclosure goes? That's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Also, you got to think about the soul. You know, why wouldn't they have the same type of soul we have and just be more advanced? It makes perfect sense. And you've met quite a few, and I'm sure we all have in a lot of ways. And his name was Mu, M-O-U, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And Mu is a blue alien from,
He was.
I want to say, is it Rob? Planet Rob? What is it? Robe?
Yeah, Robe.
Okay.
R-O-B-V-E.
What a personality he had. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he does.
Just wonderful. Just wonderful. You give him my best regards if you get to talk to him. I just think that's wonderful that he came through and kind of, to me, he kind of came in and just got you ready for all the big stuff that was coming. You know what I mean? Eased you into it and guided you guys.
Well, we found out a little something about Mu a couple of weeks ago that he never told us, that he kept a secret from us.
Wow.
And that Mu was actually a member of our soul family.
Wow.
And was actually present 2,000 years ago with us.
Wow.
His soul energy was. And that's why he was assigned to give us all this information. And the alien information that he gave is the lead in. The information he gave is what leads us into the book on the life of Jesus.
Isn't it wonderful? And
that was his role.
See, oh, wow. That's amazing. See,
yeah, nobody knows that.
Yeah, see, that's the
first time I ever mentioned it.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for telling me. I mean, but it makes sense to me. It's like all these pieces just start snapping together.
Oh, yeah.
Now, to work listeners up to what we're talking about is you guys, after talking to so many let's just say famous people that other people would know, like Patton, and you know, we talked about the JFK assassination. We've certainly got you've got the Lincoln assassination in there, and John Wilkes Booth, and how he just lived on as John St. Helens and went on and wound up being a circus or a mummified attraction in the circus, like you said, like a Ripley's Believe It or Not kind of thing. All of that stuff is confirmed, and if you've ever looked into the Lincoln conspiracy, very much the same type of thing, you know, with his inner people, you know, doing the deed there. All of that was a setup again. That's what I mean by all of these people. It just seems like their closest people, you know, were the ones that really stabbed them all in the back.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
it's like everything's a conspiracy when you get into it.
It's so true. It's so true. Mu and other spirit guides and aliens also told you about a lot of things that are going on here. They explained a lot about, you know, Devil's Triangle, Bermuda Triangle, a lot of missing things, mysteries, you know, that happen. And it seems like, I mean, even Operation Paperclip, for Pete's sake, you know, with the Germans and their technology and everything. Aliens have been in and out, and I'm sure Egypt, and I could just imagine. But a lot of the technologies and stuff they've showed you. But Mu came through, and like you said, it's all predestined, getting you ready for stuff, you know, that's coming. Soul Group. Well, and I wouldn't doubt that I wasn't there with you. I know I was. The number one thing that has happened in our history, I'm going to try real hard not to cry. My listeners are used to that. Is somebody, I think, that has gotten the worst rap, has been probably misquoted, misrepresented, just sorely treated. And it's one of my best friends, and that would be Jesus Christ. Now, we're going to try real hard to talk about this without mentioning religion. And I really think that that's going to be so easy, because even the aliens that have come to you and said there's a universal God, that they also believe in the same universal God. Basically, God is love, people. God is love. Jesus came here to tell us about that love, and because of that was persecuted. Everything other than love, being kind to one another, taking care of the earth, being the best person you can be, is pretty much added on by man for power, for control, even the Bible itself. And Barry and Connie and multiple other people that have been trying to say this for so long, we now have, because Barry and Connie have been channeling saints that were there. I mean, if you can believe that we talked to JFK, why not St. Augustine? Why not some of the saints that they have spoken to? So now that we've opened that up, what would you like to say about that?
Well, everything that we have done is leading to a culmination. And the culmination is the telling of the truth about the life of Jesus and bringing people the messages of the holy souls, as I refer to them. Mm-hmm.
With no additions.
With no
just what strictly comes from them.
Yeah, and correct. What we have started to do is we actually on Facebook Live show you the actual sessions where we speak with these wonderful spirits. Mm-hmm. The last week on Facebook Live, we channeled for almost an hour with St. Peter. Mm-hmm. And St. Peter comes in and he gives us a message. Mm-hmm. And then he answered 60 questions for me about his life, mm-hmm. about his conversations with Jesus, what he talked about, how he forsaken Jesus and how Jesus came to him after the resurrection. But you can actually go, and I put the stuff up on my channel on YouTube so that you can actually go in and watch these channeling sessions and decide for yourself whether it's a real deal or not. Mm-hmm. Once you watch it, you can. I am totally incapable of making something up to bring messages like this through. Mm-hmm. We've done a session with St. Peter. Mm-hmm. We have a session with St. Paul.
Mm-hmm. John the Baptist. That was wonderful. John the Baptist. That was wonderful.
Yeah. John was really cool. That was the first time we'd ever channeled with him. Mm-hmm. We had done sessions with Peter and Paul and the others before. We have a session with the Blessed Mother Mary mm-hmm. that you can go in and watch. We have multiple sessions where we actually channel with Jesus, mm-hmm. where he brings you his messages and tells you the truth of his love for everyone. Mm-hmm. And it's we're trying to bring the incredible truth of our God mm-hmm. to the people, and that is really why Connie and I have been sent back is to deliver these messages,
to get this out. To get this word out. And mm-hmm. it's really incredible because when they come through, now I can remember a couple of years ago you were doing an interview. And I forget who the show host was at the time, but they said, if you could talk to anybody, if you could channel anybody, who would you like to talk to? And you mentioned a couple people, and then you hesitated a minute. You said, well, I'd really love to talk to Jesus, but I don't know that I could handle that. I don't know if I could handle the energy. I don't know if I could be... You know what I mean? You could hear the hesitation in your voice the whole time, but you were honest and you said, I don't know if I could handle that. And the whole reason I brought that up was basically, I can look back and stand back from this and see how your spirit guides and their spirit guides, because I've been involved in this for a long time, and I've seen how spirit guides will work you into a situation they want you to be in, and then just watch back and see how you handle it. This is what's been going on. And I think they're really tired of, being lied about. manipulated, having their words manipulated, and having, things put in there. I mean, how many books that you know of at this time have been taken out of the Bible? Just taken out of.
300. There were more than 300.
There you go.
That were not accepted.
There you go. So basically, you've got a table full of men. Again, power corrupts. And they're sitting there going, nope, they don't need to hear that. Throw that out. Nope, we're not having that. That was written by a woman. We don't want that in there. We don't want this in here. And the books that were taken out the most were the teachings of Jesus. And
yes,
anything that made
his
him
own
look,
gospel was not accepted in the Bible.
Can you imagine? And, and then if you look at all the different religions, now I'm in no way bashing any religion. If you've got a faith and you've got a religion and you've got something that gives you power to get through your day and gives you something to believe in, and it's based in love, more power to you. That's wonderful. I'm not talking about religion now. I'm talking about a man who was preaching love, and then they wrapped it in all this hate and fear. And that bothers me, because it just seems like, if aliens on other planets and from other galaxies, and they're here, they've been here, they've been helping us along the way, and it makes perfect sense. And they're believing in a universal God, a universal source of love and light and everything else. What have we done with that? We let people take it and wrap it in all this fear and anger and all this other stuff. And then Jesus and the different saints that come through and are channeling are talking about love. Love.
Yes, that's the main thing.
That's it.
His teachings were incredibly simple. I
Absolutely.
mean, what he has told us, it's how you live your life determines how you progress in the realms of heaven. There's 7 realms in heaven, and there is no hell. There's a lower level. There's a lower realm where they do send you, where you don't want to be. It's a place of nothingness, but there's not this guy with a red suit that goes around with a pitchfork and fire and all that stuff.
Right.
There's a reality.
And
Heaven's all around you.
Absolutely. And so many times I had a listener ask a question today that when we put forth, and he's actually a medium that, goes around and he tries to help. He goes into homes and things like that. And, spirits that are trying to cross, number one reason they get stuck, or for whatever reason, or karma is a big one. But is basically, I don't want to go there because of fear. That they're going to, of course you're going to have to deal with what you did. You're going to have to, there's comeuppance or whatever you want to call it, and your karma and, things you have to go through. But it's basically that fear of things that they've been taught, religious-based reasons. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, fear,
and that's
fear is the biggest weapon of organized religion.
Right. But, also, like your free will when you come here, it's basically... you have choices, and, you make those choices, and choices have, consequences and repercussions. If you're going to make bad choices, of course, that's going to have consequences and repercussions. But you've sat there and you've asked him, and I mean Jesus, you've sat there and you've talked to him, and you've asked other saints too. How do you feel about this? Now, the number one thing he said, you cannot kill an innocent. That's, there's forgivable sins and there's unforgivable sins,
Yes.
Evil,
Yes.
We're not putting up with evil. There's going to be consequence. You won't be here with me. You'll be in another realm, and you'll have to deal with the pain you caused and everything else. So, Hitler comes to mind. People, you have to go through all of the pain you've caused. And you've also asked him, and I thought it was so cool because I had my son here with him. I'm not going to tell you what they're doing. I'm going to have you sit here and watch this. You come to your own conclusion, what you're saying here. And, one of his is also, that fear-based, thing. It's like, well, what if I'm Wicca? And I love nature, and I take care of animals, and I take care of my other human beings and stuff like that. This is what Jesus said. It matters who you are and how you live your life. Not what you are doing as far as what your religion or whatever is. That's Jesus said that. He said
absolutely.
It's how you live your life. What kind of person you are. That's my Jesus. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and it's not, there's so many people that believe that if you're not a member of this specific church, you're not going to heaven. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not accurate. I mean, even that, if you want to believe that the Hindus don't go, or the Buddhists don't go, or
true.
even the atheists.
Even the atheists. That's true.
If they live a good life, they will find out the rest on the other side.
And as a matter of fact, we've been told that you have to live the life of a non-believer to experience what it's like and to understand your mistakes.
Yep. That makes perfect sense. It goes into everything else. It's just like, because I'm Native American too. And I know you used to be as well. In another place.
Billy Cross.
Yes. Yes.
Yellow Cloud.
Yellow Cloud. Isn't that something? But, and I think, in a lot of ways we all have, I believe that, you reincarnate on other planets and, all this other stuff. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, but here's how I want you to think of this. And when I explain it like this, the logic of it I think comes through to most people. Mm-hmm. The soul of humans and the soul of God has been around, let's say, forever. Okay? Mm-hmm. Millions of years, billions of years. Mm-hmm. The universe is 13 billion years old. Our Earth, I think, if I remember right, is around 4 billion. But soul energies have been around. Now, humans have only been here for 200,000 years. Mm-hmm. Where do you think the energy of God was before humans walked the earth? It didn't just form when humans walked the earth. It was with cultures on other planets.
It's absolutely true. Yeah. Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
It's so logical. Yeah.
When you take when you put logic in it and you put the, it's just like dealing with God, Logically, we're all connected. We just really are connected. Like that, have you ever heard the thing about, like you take the ocean, you take a bucket of water out of the ocean, it's still part of the ocean. You take a cup of water out of that, it's still part of the bucket and still part of the ocean. We're just all connected. And you have soul groups, and they come back, in different times, to go through an experience to learn how to be a better human, human spirit. And then you've got your spirit guides who are helping us get through. Like we said earlier, it could have been a person who lived before and just, an ascended master. A lot of times people call them that, ascended. You call them master guides, I believe, who've really been around a long time and really been around and know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, there's seventh level guides.
There you go.
Those are the true masters.
There you go. You've got, there's different levels, absolutely. And
the saints that we talk to are all seventh level.
Right. And even Jesus.
The seventh level is the level of God.
Can you tell them what you said? Even Jesus has reincarnated, and of course, why not, on other planets too. And what did the aliens there call him? It was the wise one, was it not?
Well, on Robe they called him the wise one.
There you go.
But he would have. He lived on Mu's planet 4,000 years ago.
Isn't that something? So basically, all the things that the entire world has started wars over, has persecuted, each other over, has been in fear over, basically, it all boils down to love. And that love is not just here, it's on other planets, it's in other dimensions, and it's time, people, just to realize that, I had a sister for 35 years. She felt like her family didn't love her because she chose another life, another, you want to call it alternative lifestyle. I don't even like that title. But she loved somebody that, she felt like the family wouldn't approve of. So she didn't have a family for 35 years. And she almost died alone. I got there in time. But we got to stop persecuting each other on this, people. Jesus doesn't care. Jesus says it's how you live your life. It matters who you are, not any of these stigmas that religion has put on all this stuff. Stop. It's all about love. And I would love to tell you.
Well, it's about love and forgiveness.
And forgiveness.
When we did the session with St. Paul, mm-hmm. the story of St. Paul is the true story of forgiveness. Because Paul actually persecuted Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jesus appeared to him, he was on the way to Damascus to arrest and crucify Christians. He had actually killed Christians in the past.
Yep.
And Jesus, or God, chose him because of this past that he had, because he wants everyone to understand that he is the forgiving God,
mm-hmm.
and that your sins can and will be forgiven. Mm-hmm. Depending if your heart changes and you bring the love of God into your heart, you will be forgiven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you will advance in the realms of heaven.
And there it is.
And I mean, now, that's not saying that the soul won't pay for karma in future lives. You know, if you're still, there's still a price. You know, there's a yin and yang.
Right.
But you will be forgiven, and it will be part of your learning experience, and you will learn not to do it again.
Right.
And as long as you don't create evil. And evil is not created in heaven. Because I asked that question. I said, is there evil on the other side? He said, no. Evil is the product of free will
mm-hmm.
and ego.
There you go.
You have to control ego and free will, and you are judged on how you live your life. Mm-hmm. It's basically that simple.
It is.
Even if you look at the teachings of the Bible. Everything is in parables that you can't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I never really studied the Bible because I never could understand the darn thing.
Uh-huh.
Well, if you stop and think for a moment, Jesus spoke to the poor and the uneducated.
Uh-huh.
There is absolutely no way he could have spoke to the people of his time in parables.
Right.
They would have thrown rocks at him, and that would have been the end of it.
Right.
He spoke a very clear message of love. He spoke of loving one another, mm-hmm. and he spoke of forgiveness
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and getting along. His message was incredibly simple, and the people.
And anger, he spoke a lot about the lower vibrational feelings. We talk a lot about that on the show too. Your anger, your greed, your jealousy, your hate, all those heavy vibrational things. Basically, you're just dragging yourself down with that. You're dragging down your own soul with that. Forgive, let it go, learn from it, move on. Forgive other people for what they do. He even, it's amazing when these beautiful people come back and say, no, and they could take credit. Barry, I've heard you 100 times asking questions like, did you walk on water? Nope, that was made up.
Yeah.
I tried to walk on water. I felt, it wasn't happening, and, but you know what I mean? He could have said, yes, I did. It was, but no, he's real. He's going to tell you, this is what my words were twisted. That's not what I said. This is what happened. And he says it. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Well, my 6th book that I took to the publisher about a month ago is about the life of Jesus mm-hmm. and his true teachings. Mm-hmm. And, in the Bible, we're missing 2/3 of his lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially, you only cover about 3 years of the life of Jesus with his ministries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he told me exactly what happened during those missing 18 years. He lived a normal life.
Right.
He did not commit any miracles until he was baptized. Well, he did one before. I'll tell you about that. But essentially, he did not do any public miracles mm-hmm. until he began his ministries.
Mm-hmm.
And Bible credits him with, I think, 37 miracles, and he actually did close to 60. He did a lot more than what is recorded in, what is made it in the Bible. But he lived a very, very simple, normal life. He traveled. He wanted to see the suffering of man,
mm-hmm.
and he got married.
Mm-hmm.
He had a wonderful wife,
Toba.
and he had 5 children.
Toba. Her name was Toba.
Right.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have done a full channeling session with Toba.
Oh, I think it's wonderful.
And I'm sure that she will be coming back to us to do a public channeling session on Facebook Live.
I hope so. I was so thrilled. I cannot tell you. I'll tell you, when I first started thinking about this was when the whole Da Vinci Code stuff came out.
Mm-hmm.
And when all of those books started getting famous and everything, and I started thinking about it, and my first thing was to kick back and think, and I said, why couldn't he have a wife? What is wrong with people thinking that Jesus couldn't have a wife and have that kind of happiness? And if he was really truly coming here to experience the human experience, why can't he have a wife? Why couldn't he love? Why do you want to take that from him? What's so wrong?
He had to have the human experience.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Why is everybody getting hung up on that? Oh, wait a second. Ooh, the church. Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Yeah, uh-oh. Well, we're making him look more human now if he actually got a chance to love and have some children. And that means that there could be a bloodline that continued on. Oh, we don't like that. No, we're going to lose a little control. We're going to lose a little control.
There's a bloodline. In book 6, I tell the history that they give me the name. We write about the life of each of his children, including how many children they had.
Wonderful.
So there is an absolute bloodline from Jesus that exists. There is no doubt about it.
Good for him. I couldn't be happier. I danced in my house. I dance every time I hear about it. I think it's awesome that he had that chance. But then again, there's that, then I got to think, okay, there was a sad part because he knew what was going to happen. It was predestined. So he had to basically walk away from them and leave them because he didn't want them harmed. So he had to walk away from that. And, then again, you get sad and you think, gosh, man, what a, I don't know how to say, what a guy, it's just, I just love him. I just think he's cool. He is so much cooler and so much down to earth than people give him credit for. And that's why I wanted to do a little bit about this tonight, because it's just, it's just stop persecuting, my brother, it's stop. I mean, he came here to show love. He's been on other planets to say love, and the amount of hate that's been wrapped around that. I just feel so bad that he has to see what has become, because again, I'm not bashing religions. I mean, if religion is your thing, I've been into many churches. I've been into temples. I've been to the mountain. I've been to drum circles. I've been to holiness. I've been to, you name it. I've been there because I had a parent who wanted me to choose. She always preached love, and she always was a believer. But she says, you have to choose your own path. And I got the native path, and I got all this other. And when I got to a certain age, I sat down with an elder around a powwow circle once. And when they don't speak much, but boy, when they turn and speak, you listen. And somebody was talking about, religions and all this other stuff. And he just looked at me, and he looked me right in the eyes, and he said, I don't know why people get so hung up on which path they take. We're all going to the same place. And that hit me. That hit me, So if we're here to take care of each other and help each other and love each other and forgive and just love and learn and help each other learn, that's a beautiful thing, and what a lot of this control, is just, it's shameful. It's really shameful what they've done to, his name and the teachings. And I just wanted to say that. I'll say it for everybody. I'll scream it from the rooftops, because it's all about love. And when you look at these, I want to tell them again about the Facebook group. It's called Words of God Then and Now. And all you have to do is just go in there and you can get in the group. But this is it. If you're hung up big time on every word of whatever, I haven't seen too many people in there that come in there yelling and saying, but the Book of Mormon says. I see a lot of people coming in there and saying, well, the Bible says this. Well, listen, Jesus didn't say it. Okay. And it doesn't sound to me in a lot of ways that it comes from God either. If you filter it through your brain and you filter it through your heart, and it doesn't sound like it would come from a God that is 100% unconditional love, then it's probably not true. It's not coming from God. It's coming from a man who wrote it and wanted power, or do you see what I mean? Filter it that way. But if you're going to get in the group,
the true story of Jesus is one of the most believable stories.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's an incredible super story.
It is, and I can't wait for the book.
He had the gift of miracles to make people believe.
I can understand
that was the weapon he used to make the common person understand that he had the abilities of God and he could heal. He rose Lazarus from the dead. He apparently had a couple other dead that he worked on, and he did say when I asked him what his most incredible miracle was, it was the resurrection.
Right, to bring people back, yeah. Which is just, it's amazing. And, something I've learned, and I knew before I ever, met you guys, was a lot of times, whether it be a Reiki healer or somebody else, like you could hear the laying on of hands and things like that, where do you think that comes from, people? It comes from source. It comes from God. It comes from love. It comes from that energy. And sometimes people are given that gift so they can pass it on, and that's pretty darn cool. And you've kind of got a little bit of that, don't you there, Barry?
Yeah, I don't talk about it too much, but
but it does. It comes through. But it also comes through. I've seen it. I've seen it myself. I saw it when my son was in the ICU. I mean, I told him we were surrounded by angels, and by golly, if I didn't go outside and take a picture of the window, a lot of my listeners know this, and boy, if it wasn't a picture of an angel, I'll send it to you. It was absolutely amazing. It was a confirmation, and then they threw a doggone quarter and hit me in the back, and I bent over to pick it up, and it was 3 years off of his birth date. And every time he woke up and they asked him what his birthday was, he said it was the year that was on that quarter. So it was just like, angels and spirits, they find a way to touch your lives. And I'm telling you, it's all about love. And the words of God in the Now group, if you go in there, you're going to see a lot of these channeling sessions, and you can come to your own conclusion. You get to see it. And you get to feel it, because when some of these energies come through, like I said, the energy around here changes. It just changes around you. You can feel it, and it's quite amazing to hear the Blessed Mother come through and tell, how things happened with her. And, and I've seen so many moms in that group that are struggling with kids going through their own life path. And she reached out to every single one and gave them such hope. And it's quite amazing. So if you want to contact back into the love, I suggest giving that group an absolute shot, because there's too little love in this world right now.
Well, you're right. You're right. And we're going in 2 weeks, we're going to do a live channeling session with St. Thomas.
Doubting Thomas.
He's next up on the interview list.
Wow.
Because Laura, our master guide that works right with Jesus is Laura. So we asked Laura. We jumped on the board the other night to see who they wanted us to see. They tell us everything. And we always ask, okay, who's next? And then we find out. So I asked her the other night, so I could get it scheduled. I said, who's next? And she said, she said St. Thomas. I said, does Thomas know that he's going to be interviewed? And she said, yeah, Jesus told him. So
it's so amazing. Isn't it amazing? I mean, it's just so cool. It's so cool to, and like I said, and they come in, you want to talk about ego. You say keep us from ego and keep us from, all that, because, we're all just normal people here. And I've seen, people come through and go, well, you tell me. This blew my mind. I thought this was so funny, and I don't mean to laugh at the person, but people are just trying to come to grips with stuff, because it's hard to learn something all your life and go, wait a minute, God is love.
That's right.
Yeah, it blows your mind. It just blows your mind. So, and it's understandable, but they come through and go, you tell me why St. Augustine or the Blessed Mother or somebody would come through to an antique dealer across the evil Ouija board and tell you what's going on, and I'm thinking, hang on a second. Um, he had disciples. One was a tax collector. Let's see. One was one killed Christians and burned them at the stake. Okay, one was, and I'm going through all this. They were fishermen. They were this. Why wouldn't he want people now to pass the word? And why not an antique dealer in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I got to admit, it stretches your imagination. It stretches mine.
Yeah, but are disciples no longer needed though? You know what I mean? Don't you think he might be tired of people, starting wars in his name and do it? I'm just saying, it does take a little bit to wrap your mind around it, but if you just let all the stuff go,
let's just say you don't open the door and believe this the first tour. There's a lot of stuff goes on that, it took us years to fully comprehend this whole thing. Jesus had 5 children. Well, his second oldest son, the first son born. First, Sarah was the first daughter, and then Ezekiel was born. So anyway, we do Mike Barra's show once a month where we do live channeling, and this is how you get messages about things. It comes from the time that you really don't think it knocks your socks off.
Right.
So we get a caller from Arizona, and he said, "Do you think we can talk to Billy Graham?"
I was there.
This was about 3 weeks after Billy died. Okay,
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I said, "Laura, can we talk to Reverend Graham?" And the board went to rest, which meant they weren't going out to get him. About 30 seconds later, I said, "Is Reverend Graham here?" "Yes." And I said, "How can you prove to me that I really am speaking to Billy Graham?" And he spells out the name Ezekiel, which is something that only Connie and I knew at this point in the world. He spelled out the name of the son of Jesus, meaning that he was the reincarnated son of Jesus. And that was why he could perform the miracles that he was performing.
Pretty amazing stuff.
But Billy Graham was the reincarnated son of Jesus.
Just amazing. Soul groups.
He spelled that out, and I started stuttering, and I wasn't sure. Now I'm not sure what to say at all.
I was there. I was there on that live. I was watching that one. and I saw it happen. Yeah, I saw it happen.
It caught me completely off guard. It was the last thing I was expecting. I knew that there were 3 of Jesus' children were reincarnated. Mm-hmm. And I'd actually met one of the other ones. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, and I asked, I said, "Will I ever meet the other one that's on Earth?" And they said, "No, you will not." Mm-hmm. But boy, as soon as he passed, they introduced me to him.
Isn't that something, though? And it's soul groups, but it makes perfect sense, And Billy Graham, he wasn't without, making mistakes and things like that. I mean, it's just,
he lived a normal life,
right?
A gifted normal life,
right?
Just like I asked Jesus, I said, "Did you ever sin?" He said, "Of course."
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so did Mary.
Jesus did. Mary did not live a life without sin.
Mary said that too. She came through and she said, "I lived a normal life. I lived a normal life."
That's right.
Yep.
They all did.
Yep. So that's just hope for other people who keep thinking, okay, I'm not worthy. And we were talking about, ghosts that decided they weren't going to cross because of the, it's that simple. The ones that they're saying are, we're without sin and all this other. No, everybody is. You live a normal life. You're a human being. We learn, we forgive, we go on. And you're judged on the kind of person that you were in your heart. We're all making mistakes, So it really is a beautiful message. It really is a beautiful message. And, I cannot wait for the new book to come out. But I think that they did this right from the very beginning. The very first book you got your taste in it. I don't think it was a mistake, an accident. You move into this antique store.
This was all laid out.
Absolutely. here's a full taste of you don't believe in ghosts, huh? Here, have a bunch of them. It's like,
all you want.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to deny this, but they really moved you guys through it so quickly. And then they got you talking to some of these others, like it's very intimidating when you think right in the beginning, you started off talking to the spirits about John F. Kennedy. And then after you could talk to actually him. The way they did it was so, it was planned out. It was definitely methodology to it,
They build our confidence.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk to Pat.
We had to gain confidence in what we were doing.
Exactly. And I can see that standing on the outside looking in, and looking through. And I could not for the life of me figure out why I was so, I don't mean this to sound like that. I was so attracted right away. It's like the minute I heard your voice on a show, I was like, I felt like I knew you. You know that kind of feeling? You did in prior life. I know. And it's just so funny. And then I just I would be thinking about it. And then all of a sudden I'd turn it on and be on something else that I wasn't even subscribed to. I mean, you just kept popping up all over the place. And then I'm like, what?
That was not a coincidence.
I know. But isn't that funny? It's just so cool the way they do stuff. And I just felt so comfortable. And then I'd get you to do a reading and I'm telling you stuff I wouldn't tell my own mother. And it's like, it was just so open up. And it just so happened, and I've watched Michael Vera before. I wasn't subscribed to his show. And it wasn't, by choice. I don't really subscribe to many different YouTube things because it fills up too much. And all of a sudden it pops on and I'm seeing you guys are on there. And I'm like, cool, I'll watch it. And sure enough, I was there for when Billy Graham came through. And I saw that. And I said, I'm going to call. And I had called in. And I've never been able to get in touch with my grandmother, no matter how many mediums or how many, I'm in this, I'm neck deep in this all 24/7, trust me. And I could never get a hold of my grandmother. And I said, I'm going to ask and see. And boy, if it wasn't spot on, she was here. She was there. She spoke to me, tears running down my face. She was good to go. She was fine. And it's just another way of, I've had so many different ways to validate what you guys are doing and what you're saying, so many different angles that I've seen to it, to the point where, it's happening. This is happening, and why not now? Have you ever known a time that we didn't need this more?
No.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
There's so much.
In the beginning, they keep saying, you must have no doubts.
Mm-hmm.
Do not doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And being a human being and what I'm seeing and what's going on, they said, do not doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I saw, and I've actually been able to heal a few people. As I say, I don't talk about it a whole lot because the last thing that I ever want is for the attention to be on us.
Right.
The attention needs to be on the message and what God is telling us.
Right, but it's also come through because it's not you, it's not us, it's coming from source. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
If I'm ever able to help somebody or put in somebody's path, I can't tell you how many people I've helped with this podcast. I started this podcast because my son was in a horrible accident and I had to stop everything and I'm home all the time. I said, what could I do to reach out, and just kind of help a little bit? And I cannot tell you, this tiny little podcast, so many calls, so many listeners. Can you connect me with this one? I've got an issue. I feel so much better now. Just a connection, just a little bit of reaching out and other people reaching back in and connecting, and that's the way it is. If you can help one person understand, and tonight, if you're interested in hearing what Patton had to say, or if you're interested in whether or not Bigfoot exists, or, are they really changing the weather with HAARP? Yes, they are. Knew it all along. I'm telling you what, I was in Sandy. I'm right here on the Jersey coast.
Mm-hmm.
I had parts of Seaside, which is probably, I'm going to say within 10 miles from me. I had parts of Seaside Park in my backyard. people died on this block in that flood. You know, it was horrific. And when it happened, I sat on the couch and I looked at my husband. I said, you know, I'm telling you right now, this was HAARP.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I'm getting it from everything that is alive in me. This was planned, you know, and you can read that in that book. You can read it in your books. You know, it's just, and I was reading through the book and I'm like, okay, I was right about that one. I was right about that one. I was right. Ooh, that's different. You know? Ooh, that's different. Didn't know that. You know, I'm like, wow. Yeah. But it's amazing how much control, you know, if you're in this subject, it cannot be a surprise of, you know, how much evil can actually go on, you know, for power and everything else and manipulation. You know, you're talking chemtrails, we're talking just so much stuff that's happening. And we really, in this world, we all really know it and we talk about it, but we can't seem to pinpoint everything down. So it just keeps flooding around. But why not now? Why wouldn't he, just like, you know, King Richard III, come back and say, I want to clear my name, you know? That's why I brought up King Richard as well. I mean, a lot of these people that have come through to you, Patton, you know, Patton didn't die in that accident. Patton was held for how long? 18 years, 16 years?
Yeah, right.
Because he knew too much, and they knew if they let him go, he was gonna absolutely come. I can't tell you how much I admire the honor of that man. He was amazing, and he spent his whole life telling people, I've done this before. I've been a warrior in other lives. I've done this before.
Well, there's a little side story. I don't think I wrote about this in the book, but when we finished we were with him for like 4 sessions. Mm-hmm. So at the end of like the second session, I said, General, I want to thank you for coming through for us. And he said, son, I found you. And I went, okay. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So we got one of our guides, and I said, what did General Patton mean about that? And he said, oh, in a prior life, you and he were brothers, and in one other one, he was your uncle. So you guys have life together before. He's part of your soul family, and he wanted his story told, and that's why he selected you.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, you know, when you see people like that and you're automatically drawn to them, I guarantee I fought with him or in another life or something because I always admired him. And I love the part in the book where you asked him, did you like the movie?
Yeah.
And he did. He said a lot of it was very accurate, and he really liked how George C. Scott portrayed him. And then, you know, in typical Barry form, you asked him, have you met him over there? Mm-hmm. And he said, yes, I have, as a matter of fact. So
yeah, they're good friends on the other side.
How cool is that? Can you imagine the look on George C. Scott's face when he met Patton? He was probably a little, you know, panicked at first, like, gee, did you like how I portrayed you? That's just amazing to think about, you know. And here's another one. John F. Kennedy he saw Johnson over there, and he said that Johnson actually committed suicide, and they covered it up, that he shot himself in the head, and they said it was a heart attack or something, you know, that it finally got to him. And I guess he was sorrowful for what he had done. I mean, let's face it, Johnson was a real SOB in life. I mean, he was a power-hungry son of a gun. And he goes over there and, you know, JFK, basically, they spoke and everything was cool, you know. Now, he couldn't talk to his dad because he was on a lower level. And we don't know if he was able to go to a low, you know what I mean? I'm not sure how things work over there.
No, when you're down, you can't communicate with them.
Okay. So I don't know, you know, how he was able to talk to Johnson, but apparently he did, and everything is, you know, at least copacetic. He probably forgive him. JFK was, like I said, he was probably a horrible husband, but, you know, you got to think about the times and everything else. You know, nobody's perfect, but I think
he was just following the example that his father set for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%, Connie. I really do, because you're going to be what you grow up into, and
Right.
and that's
Just
the way.
thought that was the way things were done.
Yeah, and she knew it. She knew it, and she was doing the same thing. That was the example that she was given, really. But there's so many. It's just absolutely amazing how they moved you through it, and the way the aliens came through and helped you to understand that, and right up into the one with the smiling reptilian. I don't know how you dealt with that when.
He's not sure either.
How in the world?
It was I might as well tell the story.
Go ahead.
We have an apartment here in Pennsylvania. We always have a night light on, so it's fairly bright in the room. And Connie's been abducted, which we tracked down, and I've been had several learning sessions myself. Not to mention the fact that we have aliens in our background. But anyway, besides that, we had. I woke up in the middle of the night. And I sat up and I look over, and this big figure is standing by the side of the bed, and I thought, that's really weird. And I made sure I was awake, and I looked at it, and I realized that I'm looking at about a 7-foot reptilian figure, had a short nose, like a little short alligator mouth thing. And I'm looking at him, and believe it or not, I'm not feeling any fear. I'm not afraid. And he looks at me, and he smiles, and then knocks me out. So next morning I wake up, and I'm thinking, did I dream this thing? What in the world happened? I told Connie, I said, I think I saw an alien last night. It's not like exactly what you say first thing in the morning. And I said, and I'm thinking, since Connie'd been on trips before, I think you may have gone for a little journey last night you don't know about. So anyway, I figured we got to find out what's happening here. So I get our friends out in Salt Lake with the channeling board, get on Skype that evening, and they have absolutely no idea what's taking place. All I said was, something happened, I got to know what took place. So we're on Skype, they got the board in Salt Lake, and I said, can we have Moo come through for us? So Moo comes in and checks in out in Salt Lake City. And I said, Moo, did I see an alien last night? And the answer on the board in Salt Lake City is yes. And did you see him smile at you? And I had told nobody, not even Connie, that he smiled at me. So I thought that was pretty good verification of what I saw. And I said, well, why did you show me a real alien last night? And they said, because we wanted to test you and see if you showed fear. And I didn't. So I guess I passed. So that Lord knows where we're headed next,
Absolutely. And the way they do it and the way they get you ready for it, and like I said before in this conversation, they started you, and everything had a method, everything had a reason. It's just been escalating to this point, and I can't imagine what's coming next. I just can't even imagine what's coming next. And again, you talk about soul groups. I can't believe how many people, it just still astounds me, in Words of God Then and Now group will come through and said, I've always, I had a past life regression and I was told I was here. And then you have somebody else come through and find out I was here. And it seems that an awful lot of the people there have had either, like I said, past life regressions or reoccurring dreams, or always felt like they were possibly present the time Jesus was here.
Yeah, well, the thing you have to understand is God has this huge soul group. Mm-hmm. And this group has been with him for millennia, not just on the human side. For instance, when we were channeling with Mother Mary, I said, were you with him in prior lives on other planets? And she said, yes, many times we life together. And this is how, by serving him on other planets, is how the souls have progressed. This is why they're in the 7th level with him, and these souls are still serving him. So anyway, there's a large soul group that has been with him in various forms for millions of years on these other planets. And by doing this, through their learning experience, they've advanced into the 7th level, and they continue to serve and to serve others. Well, apparently what has happened is a lot of the members of his soul family has been sent back now. And just like Billy Graham was his reincarnated son. Mm-hmm. And it seems like this group that we formed, this Words of God Then and Now group, is a magnet for drawing these souls that have been sent back together. And this is acting like the group is letting them see the messages now come through, and they're understanding that their role is to pass on the Word of God and to try to spread His love throughout the world and do what they can. So this is like countless thousands more.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. And then again, it just makes so much sense. Again, exactly. Why not now? We said it earlier. Have you ever seen a time that didn't need it more? I mean, I know there's always been wars. I know there's always been things going on in this world that weren't great. But you can almost feel. I always, I don't know how to put it. It's like, it's like the world is making a fist. You know what I mean? I don't know what that means. It's like, you see so much of it. You see the culture changing. We've gone a long way from, the Waltons and, and all. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem like everybody is getting fed the right stuff anymore. And there always was evil walking, but it just feels like it's really getting a good ground now.
Well, that's exactly what Jesus is saying, that Satan is gaining strength and that we need to fight back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why he sent all these members of his soul family back in order to attempt to offset the powers of evil that's taking over the world. Mm-hmm. And we're at a time now where we could assure our own mutual destruction.
Yes.
Just the same as all of the intelligent civilizations have learned that mutual destruction is not the answer. Mm-hmm. That's why all the advanced cultures on these other planets get along. Mm-hmm. There are planets out there that follow the advice, the preachings of God. Mm-hmm. All the cultures get along. Mm-hmm. If the aliens wanted to kill us, we would be gone in about 4 seconds.
Probably less than that. We'd be vaporized.
They got such fantastic abilities. In my new book arrived at the publisher today, so they'll start getting it out through Amazon and everything. Mm-hmm. But in that, we talk about the different types of aliens, and we talk about different vehicles that they travel in. They have a vehicle the size of the United States that they use as their base. On that vehicle, there are over 250 alien types. Mm-hmm. This thing is so much more immense than anybody can comprehend.
Right.
If the size of the universe, if each star was a grain of sand, there are more stars than there are grains of sand on the earth. That's the immensity of this and the probabilities of people getting along. Mm-hmm. Who told us they've only explored 5% of the universe?
Right.
And he said, think of the possibilities. It's a phenomenal story.
It is a phenomenal story. And, I look at stuff like, I can remember when Star Trek was first on. I was young, when that first came on, and they thought, gosh, isn't it a wonderful thought to think that, we could be on a ship, there'd be a coalition, where there'd be aliens, from each different planet, plus, some from Earth, and we'd all be getting along, and we'd just be planet hopping to try to make sure that everybody else is kind of getting along, and they're not getting too out of hand, and I'm thinking, it's true. It's true.
Whoever wrote Star Wars knew a lot more than they were putting on.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Just the whole thing of, just this ship going around, and going from different planet to planet. It's more true than it isn't. That's for fact, because they've been here for a long time. Gosh, how far back can you go and find spacemen and things on pyramids and and everything else. The Native Americans call them star people. Star people. Mm-hmm. It's no big deal to us. It's been around for, as far back as storytelling can carry. It's true. And, you talk to shamans, and shamans will tell you, there's dimensions, and there's this, and there's that. And by golly, if I wasn't right about Bigfoot, I am just proud of that, because I've been saying it all my life. I've been saying it all my life. And, I had somebody I was talking to years ago. They said, well, why don't we find anybody? As they drag them back through, why would they leave them here? They're not that crazy. They're interdimensional. Of course, right. Why isn't that possible? We have people missing all the time. You also touch on that in the book and about the ley lines and, the Bermuda Triangle and, the Devil's Triangle, like we said earlier.
Or venturing into a wormhole.
Absolutely.
And it takes you out through time.
Look at how many cases that we know about. And, not to mention the stuff we don't know about, but people getting caught in that and winding up 100 miles, in a blink of an eye. What do you think that is, people? There's different energies that we just can't comprehend right now. And all of us in the paranormal supernatural world, we're talking about it. And it's all connected. It's all connected. You've got missing things where they, aliens said, well, we kind of messed up, so we had to fix it. They're okay. Yeah. They're okay. We got them. It's okay. There's just so many things like that, but it makes sense. And if you look up into the sky and you look at all those stars, it's just like they said in that movie Contact, what a terrible waste of space, to think that we're the only ones here and we're the only intelligent life. And right now, people, I'm sorry, but we're not acting very intelligent from what I can see, In
many instances, you are correct.
Right. And to think that we're it is not only arrogant, but that's just sad. There's
exactly.
And one thing people have to understand, a human lifetime is a blink of the eye in the life of the soul.
Yes.
I mean, it's a human lifetime. And for the spirits, death is the beginning of a new cycle. Mm-hmm. They always say your soul is coming home.
Yes.
And that is the start of the cycle. Mm-hmm. To humans, we think it's, you look at death as the end of the cycle, but it's not. Death is the beginning of the cycle.
Isn't that
you go
something?
Back on the other side, and it's wonderful over there. Even Billy Graham told me that it was far more magnificent than even he preached.
Yes. Oh, I heard him when he said that. Yes, that was amazing. And people say, the colors, I can't explain the colors. It's just colors are just more vibrant and more this and more that, and we talk about spirit communication all the time. And every time I've ever been involved in it, they come back and they're saying, I'm fine, go on with your life, live your life. I'm good. Love never dies. I'm here with you. We hear it from our animals.
And they pray for us over there.
Absolutely. And I was just amazed at how many people did come back and, people say, I'm going to pray for you over here. And you stated in the book that that's kind of cool that they're still praying over there, for us and for, for the truth to come out or for whatever reason, that they were communicating. And that's it, birth isn't the beginning. Birth is where we're starting out again to learn more and to try to be the best human being we can. And, of course, we're born with that amnesia. We can't remember we came from there. But I think
they wipe it clean.
Wipe it clean. And I think that's probably true why, little kids, kind of remember a lot. You hear a lot about little kids remembering a little bit about being reincarnated, like going down in a bomber in World War II or something like that. And then later it just kind of goes away a little bit, that's amazing. There's just too much documented proof in every single one of these subjects we've talked about tonight. There's documented proof on the channeling that you've done. There's been extensive research. There's been, and I'm going to tell you something in the beginning, Barry, I know the truth is that you weren't just doing it to prove it to other people. I know your personality. You could care less what other people think. You were trying to prove it to yourself.
That was the hardest part.
Proving it to yourself. And then you got to the point where you just, without a doubt, you just had it. And you just, after that, it was like, here it is. Here's the information. If you don't want to believe it, that's fine. but I'm offering you the information, And Connie, you were right there at the beginning. I can just imagine what it was like to watch all this from from your perspective.
It's been an amazing journey,
isn't it?
And
though?
I feel so blessed that I've been put on it.
Oh,
because
Connie has a very special soul as well. I mean, Mother Teresa is one of her guides.
I heard. I think that's awesome. I would love one time to sit with you guys to figure out who mine are, and what exactly is my purpose to do. All I can do is just keep trying to help, try to listen, and try to guide people to, that love is love is love is love. And that's just, you'll see me every time on this stuff. There'll be this long thing, and I'm just like, love. Love.
That is your mission. I think you're doing exactly why you came back.
Oh gosh, I hope so. I don't want to let anybody down. I always, that's just it. You just think, gosh, I got to do more. I got to do more. Right now in my position, what I can do is I can lend a voice, and I can lend a voice to other people that can reach out. And every time, all week long, I'll get all these things where people say that helped me or that made me feel a little bit better. Thank you.
Oh, that feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's really cool. And, and hopefully tonight this will touch some people. Absolutely get the books. The new one is, Barry, tell me about the new one. One more time.
The new one is called Spirits Speak of the Universe.
Okay.
And it builds off the information in my first alien book. My first alien book was called Aliens Among Us, Exploring Past and Present. Mm-hmm. Now, in this book, builds a foundation. There's a chapter on the universality of God, and there's a big chapter on universal reincarnation.
Oh, cool.
So those two chapters will build the foundation for the new book, for the next book that is at the publishers on the life of Jesus. Because those two chapters will make you understand and be the lead-in for what you need to read and believe the true story of the life of Jesus. Not all the details that were made up and exaggerated. Not the stories that when he was crucified, the dead rose from the grave, the sky turned black. None of that took place.
Right.
He died a very dignified death. The soldiers knew that he was the Son of God. They respected him. They were just simply following orders. They didn't gamble for his clothes. They didn't give him vinegar. The fact that they took his body off the cross as soon as he passed is the fact that they knew there was something special. Because traditionally the Romans would let the bodies on the cross as a sign, and basically let them rot on the cross.
Right, just left them there, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the true story of the life of Jesus is a magnificent, wonderful story.
And I'm glad it's finally getting out. It's about time. It's about time. And it is going to be, hard for people to understand because they've grown up in a way, and they've heard certain things. And that's understandable. That's fine, because believers have just as hard a time believing some of this as the non-believers who've been told the opposite, that God doesn't like you if you're this, God doesn't like you.
Oh, we've been
that.
Indoctrinated all our lives.
Yeah.
You've been indoctrinated.
Yeah.
I mean,
but if you just find a happy medium and just realize that, everything is fine. It's love, and taking care of each other and learning to be the best person you can be. And that's it. It's just it. And aliens have been here for a long time helping us and helping themselves as well. They're all here for different reasons. And the treaties get me, where there's been, it's just, it makes sense. I mean, honestly, people, can you not know all of this and then think that they're not trying to help certain, governments to do this and then back them off when they're learning too much? I mean, where do you think stealth came from? Where do you think we jumped in technology in 10 years like whoop-pow? Where do you think I came from?
One of the greatest examples is the German rocket technology that I wrote about in the conspiracy book.
Yes. Absolutely. And I have been there to Marshall Space Flight Center. It used to be, I think they kind of sort of changed the name from Von Braun. It used to be Von Braun Civic Center. But, and I thought that was kind of strange. That kind of faded off after Paperclip got out and all that. But basically, you go in there and you watch this jump. and you're just like, what? I mean, it's amazing, but it makes sense if you put it all in there, and if you think Star Trek, because that's very much what it's like, and there are aliens that are holding back those that would hurt, and there's good and there's bad. There's absolutely, just like there's good and there's bad human beings. I mean, why wouldn't we think that's off in another place, So it makes perfect sense, and it's all leading up to this next book, and we're trying to get the word out now, that, not everything we've been told is true, and isn't that just a shocker?
Yeah, really.
Tell us where we can find your books, Barry.
Well, they're available on Amazon. They're Barnes and Noble. They're basically anywhere books are sold. Mm-hmm. You can get them off my website. I have a couple of those. Mm-hmm. I have a very, very good website. Maybe that's just my opinion, but it's in the same name as our group on Facebook. It's wordsofgodthenandnow.com. Mm-hmm. And I have actually posted the transcripts of our channeling sessions on that website, so people can go in, they can read it. The links are there that you can go in and see where we receive the messages, mm-hmm. and make your own decision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. Yeah.
And I think when you see the miracle that we bring forth, it's you'll be staggered by it.
Yeah.
Enter the website with an open mind. Mm-hmm. And it won't do you any good to call me demonic. I've heard it enough. So
I understand. Yeah, and like I said, I've seen it too, and it's just I understand the people questioning. It's just like the people questioning with aliens, But if you just step back away from it and open your mind, and think about, it's very possible. That the things happened the way they did. Look at JFK. We've been talking about it for 50 years. Well, here's the answers, people. And it's exactly what we thought it was. And he knew. He knew about it. He knew it was coming. And you even asked him, why did you ride in an open car then? I was no coward.
That's right. He knew it was coming.
I think if you ever got anybody, I'd love to hear Martin Luther King. Because I think I'm pretty doggone sure he knew it was coming too, and it's just horrible what human beings do to each other, but nothing is as horrible as what they did to the words Jesus said. And when you hear them now, he's just as loving and just as, I can't stop saying, I think he's cool. I really think he's cool. I've always said that. I think he's just down to earth and just as cool as can be. I just love him.
Oh, when you spend as much time with him as we do, believe me, he's something else,
isn't he?
His energy is miraculous. Mary's energy just brings tears to your eyes.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And like I said, when I was listening to it, the cats just got up and came. They just wanted to be near it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just so. Just like Bodhi and Leo, the same thing. I can't believe I just saw Mary. That's beautiful.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And
I keep using that word, so it's
yeah, and these are cats that most of the time when they come through to speak to them, to the listeners, they just keep saying, we want more beef. Stop with the fish. It's like most of the time they're just worried about what they're getting fed and that you guys don't spend enough time at home. That's their biggest beef right there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But he came through that day and said, I can't believe I just saw Mary. So, everybody should experience that. And, no matter what your beliefs are, just being around that energy is absolutely phenomenal. I can't express it any other way. And I cannot express how phenomenal this evening has been and getting to talk to both of you. And I know I've kept you here for so long, and I know you got to be getting tired. So thank you so much for being on tonight. And I hope this won't be the only time you're on. Will you come back and spend more time with us again?
Of course.
Absolutely. It's been great fun.
No, this is all part of the grand mission.
Oh, gosh.
And as I say, I invite people to join our group on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
And I try to interact with people as much as I can and answer their questions. Mm-hmm. we get a lot of questions every day in the group, and I try to interact. I try to give them as much information as I'm given.
Mm-hmm.
And
you also do a lot of live channeling sessions too. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm sorry. I got a little glitch there for a second. I couldn't tell if you stopped talking. Forgive me. You do some live channeling sessions, and a lot of times you do those on Michael Vera's show, and that's pretty. It happens like once every couple of weeks, once a month.
We do it the first Wednesday of the month.
First Wednesday of the month.
Yeah. Now we had a problem, so we're going to be on the 20th of this month. And then we'll be back on our regular schedule a couple weeks later on the first Wednesday. But we're on at 9 o'clock first Wednesday of every month with him.
And that's one where you can call in. If you get in, you got to get in early, folks, and get your call in. But if you can call in, they'll do a live channeling session with one of your loved ones that you want to get in contact with. And that's really a beautiful thing. I've seen people just get changed. You can almost feel years and years of grief and worry just melt off the people when they finally get to hear that their loved one is okay. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. That is the satisfying part of it.
Absolutely. And I know you guys have done it for me more than once. And I love you both dearly. And in this lifetime and all our other lifetimes and the lifetimes we have coming.
Indeed.
And right back at you, Cisco. Love you.
I love you, darling. Okay. Thank you so very, very much. And I highly recommend each and every one of these books. And I think this is the third time I've read Mysteries and Conspiracies. And I can't wait to get some more of them. And I thank you so much for spending this evening with me tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the invite. Yes, we've enjoyed it.
All right. Okay. You guys go get some rest.
Okay, good night.
Okay, good idea.
Well, there you go, listeners. I got to tell you, that was a nice conversation. I'm forever flabbergasted by the channeling of the spirits. And when they come through, all the books are wonderful. Barry Strohm's books are fantastic. They're really going to give you a new perspective on things. And, you got to run that through your own head and your own heart and, choose what's right for you. And look at them, research them, check out the information. I did, and I'm forever amazed. I love you all. Thank you for listening. And if you have had any experiences with the uncanny, angels, miracles, ghosts, you name it, contact me at journeythroughthegate@gmail.com or on our Facebook page, The Gatekeepers, Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Portal Podcast, Gatekeepers. Come on in and let's talk about it, okay? But until then, keep your feet under the covers. Keep that closet door shut, because there are things that go bump in the night.